everybody, welcome to the show. I appreciate you tuning in for another week of spooky streaming suggestions. We got one more week until Halloween, and for the last couple of months, I've been dropping 12 great streaming suggestions for you to check out on all your favorite platforms. So if you've been looking for something spooky to watch, you can get your Halloween season going right. And I got one more set of them for you next week. Maybe you can do a marathon on Halloween itself. But don't forget, throughout the week, I am dropping countless reviews in the world of horror, whether it's movies, TV shows, games, books, whatever it is, folks. I got a lot coming to you. And if you want to stay on top of all the content I'm dropping, you gotta get subscribed to my link tree. And you can do that by going to linktr.ee/tscarymovie. If you get subscribed to my link tree, that's going to give you access to the YouTube page for the video versions of the show, to your favorite podcasting platforms, the audio only versions of the show, to my Letterboxd page for my written reviews and movie rankings throughout the year, to my TikTok page for my short horror content, including movie news and movie premieres, to my Twitch page for my horror gaming, including Phasmophobia and The Thing Remastered, and to my Fangoria shop page, where you can enjoy my 20% discount off anything in the Fangoria shop, including a yearly subscription to the physical magazine. Take advantage of all that, folks. Hit that subscribe button, especially if you're watching on YouTube, as the more subscribers I get, the more content I can drop for all of you. So like I said, we are into another week of spooky streaming suggestions for all of you. We're not going to waste any time with that at all. We're going to jump right on in here with our first platform, Shudder. And on Shudder, my first suggestion for you is gonna be a bona fide classic at this point, even though it's only a few years old at that, but it's one that has just made its way back to streaming platforms, and it's actually getting a physical release. We are talking Mike Flanagan's Hush. Now, y'all have followed Mike Flanagan for years at this point. That man is the Stephen King muse. Matter of fact, it was just announced that he's going to be developing a Carrie TV show adaptation for Prime Video. But before Mike Flanagan got knee deep into the world of Stephen King, he put out this very taut slasher film that was co-written by his wife and fellow collaborator Kate Siegel, about a deaf writer who lives out in solitary in the middle of the woods and realizes that a masked killer is hunting her at her house. Now, if you think of the way that most slashers work, the whole idea is that most of the people that are going up against these slashers in films are far ill-equipped to take their villains on. Usually have to kill a few of their friends, and then when they've broken through that absolute terror that they've been dealing with the entire time, they're ready for that final battle. And Hush turns that on its head because our victim is already playing a step behind, because she doesn't have the same senses that a lot of our other victims in these films do, which adds to the terror. And one of the great things about this film is that that's the way we experience a lot of this as well, that we can't hear certain things, and that just leaves her that much more susceptible. It is scary. There are some good jump scares in this one, and this killer has no mercy for our victim at all. Kate Siegel is an amazing lead, and the fact that both her and Mike Flanagan co-wrote this together just adds that little cherry on top. You can go and check out Hush right now on Shudder. Another slasher, last week I told you guys about one of my favorites, Jason Takes Manhattan. Well, I'm coming up with another one of my favorites here, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Now, as a kid, Halloween 4 stood out to me because I had seen a few others at that point, and of course, in the majority of these films, and even the other victims in Halloween 4, Michael is chasing around kids that are 17, 18, or he's killing a bunch of adults as well. The idea that he's hunting his 8-year-old niece added so much terror to the legend of Michael, because we kind of had this idea that Michael wasn't really harming little kids, and then Halloween 4 shows us, no, Michael's going after anybody that he's after. If you're a family member, you are screwed. Now, of course, we know there are numerous continuities out there with the Halloween franchise, and you might be wondering, where does this one pick up? So you got Halloween, Halloween 2, then you go into Halloween 4, then 5, and then 6. And that's the end of the Jamie Lloyd Cult of Thorn storyline. And I'm a big fan of 4 and that whole storyline of the Cult of Thorn, for the simple fact that I thought it gave much more of a background to Michael. And I know a lot of people said it's much scarier if you don't have any idea. Like if you just watch Halloween in a vacuum, then he just randomly coming back to his hometown and killing people that he comes across. There's no connection at all. But I think the family, the fact that these people are all in the Myers family, and that this cult is looking to use Michael as their weapon, which will eventually be developed, the start of that is terrifying. And Halloween 4, in my opinion, does have the best ending of the entire franchise. The absolute best ending of it, just because all these movies leave us with at least a little breath of air. I know the first one ends on a cliffhanger as well, but most of these other films give us at least a chance to breathe when everything is said and done. Halloween 4 gives you the worst case scenario of what could happen even if Michael is gone at this point. So don't take my word for it. Go and check this out. I do think this is the best Halloween film in the franchise. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, and Hush are available on Shudder right now, folks. Moving on to Prime Video, the first film I'm here to suggest to you is It Follows. Now, coming off seeing a movie like Smile 2, this is perfect to complement those who are looking for another curse-like movie, but set in the modern age. This time, it focuses on this demonic curse that spread sexually. As the curse is spread from one person to another, whoever has it is being hunted down by this demon that's going to basically rip them completely apart. Now, it stars Micah Monroe, who we have found out is going to be returning for the upcoming sequel, because we are getting It Follows 2, or It Follows More, or It Follows Again, whatever the hell the name of the sequel is going to be. But what I really do enjoy about this is that it's kind of a more responsible movie about sex when it comes to the horror genre, because in the past, there's always been that rule: if you have sex in a horror movie, you're gonna die. A lot of you have seen Scream, you know the way that works out, but It Follows takes that literally, and the whole idea really is, if you have sex, you are likely going to die in this movie. Honestly, teach a little bit more about responsibility, and Micah Monroe is an amazing horror lead for us, y'all. This was pretty much the start of her going on and capturing all these roles that we still love going back and seeing her in. You gotta go and check It Follows out, folks, especially if you were a big fan of the Smile franchise. Same kind of idea working on this one as well, okay? And then coming off my review of Terrifier 3, folks, go and catch the original Terrifier. Now, here's the deal. If you want a comparison of this, think of this kind of being like the early Nightmare on Elm Streets to later Nightmare on Elm Streets. The whole idea was, in the first and second Nightmares, Freddy is a little bit more ruthless. He's a little bit more cruel. He's not cracking as many jokes. He's absolutely terrifying. There is no relent from Freddy at all. But as the movies go on, even though number 3, Dream Warriors, is the best, you kind of feel like you might be able to reason with Freddy, right? Like, he might not be necessarily as bad of a guy. You could walk away from a scrape. He might not just kill you outright. And Terrifier seems to work the same way. Not really, because Art is still a son of a bitch no matter what. But Terrifier 2, for as many of y'all like that, Art is fairly comical in that film. It's one of the best things about it. But Terrifier 3 continues that moment on. And if you're wondering, well, what would happen if we take Art the Clown and kind of remove a lot of that laughter, remove a lot of that humor, how does Art come off? And that is what the original Terrifier definitely is. Now, it's not the first appearance of Art the Clown, but it is the first feature-length appearance for him. And I can tell you, y'all, in this one, he is very unrelentless, he's very brutal, he is very cruel, and while yes, he does have some of that trademark humor that we have come to expect from him in this franchise, in reality, it's much more about him catching and hurting and killing his victims than anything else. Absolutely, he still revels in it. There's no question about that at all. But if you catch it, you'll notice there's just a lot less in the laugh department. And the movie does a great job of circumventing and keeping you... The movie does a great job of actually making you guess who our final girl or who our protagonist in this really is gonna be. And you'll see what I mean when you go and check that out. So head to Prime Video. You can catch It Follows and Terrifier right now, folks. Moving on to Peacock. Look, horror can be good no matter whether it's set at day or at night. And if you're looking for a good creature feature, then folks, there is no better than the original Tremors. Now, this is decades on, and we have gotten so many films in this franchise, but the original is still the high point of this actually very, very good series. Fred Ward, Kevin Bacon show up to the town of Perfection, and unfortunately, Perfection is being terrorized by graboids. Now, again, you know, we call them graboids more later on in the franchise, but these gigantic worms that come under the ground and swallow you whole is terrorizing this town, and only handymen Kevin Bacon and Fred Ward have what it takes to save us from them. Y'all, this is a hilarious creature feature with a fantastic supporting cast, and And that's one of the things that makes horror so good, is that if your leads are good and you can add in a great supporting cast to back them up, then all the pieces come together. Not only that, but the graboids are actually really, really cool. A lot of practical effects in that. And yes, there is obviously some special effects in this one as well too, but the practical work in this is so good. It's got a fun soundtrack, and it's actually a Western as well. There's so much really to enjoy about these two outlaws coming into town, having to save this town, and then riding off in the sunset again. I love this movie to death. You can check out Tremors right now on Peacock, folks. My second suggestion for you is one that's going to be a little bit polarizing, and some of you who have seen it are going to be like, what the hell are you talking about, T? My second suggestion is Malignant. Now, I talked about this movie a couple of years back on the show. This was one of those pandemic releases that we got. Folks, this film is batshit insane, and that is one of the best things about it, y'all. James Wan, Kayla Cooper, put together this fantastic story about a woman who keeps getting visions of all these terrible murders happening, and she finds out that the murderer is a little bit closer to home than she could ever realize. Now, I can't give it away, because for those of y'all who have not seen it, this is just gonna, again, you're gonna see this movie and be like, what the actual fuck? What is the deal with this? Y'all, it's worth it. It's so worth it. Just like sit back and enjoy how over the top this movie really gets, because it's bloody and it's brutal, and our killer Gabriel is amazing. Folks, that the police station scene where Gabriel just runs rampant on all the cops in there is one for the ages. When he yeets that chair, that is cinema history right there. It is so good. Gabriel don't care about your problems at all. James Wan is one of our modern kings of horror, and Kayla Cooper has shown that she is definitely one of our best writers in Hollywood right now, pumping out enjoyable horror content. Put those two together, we've got a great mix. You can go and check out Malignant and Tremors right now over on Peacock, folks. Moving on to Netflix, my first suggestion for you here is going to be Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Coming off my review of Campfire Tales just the other week, I am in the mood for some anthology horror, and while Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is not necessarily anthology horror, it does take us back to our childhood and those terrifying books that we had. Folks, you probably had a copy of that, or even more Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark at some point when you were a kid. These short stories that were absolutely terrifying, and here they are brought to life in this film. And what's interesting is that I compared this kind of to I compared Campfire Tales to Urban Legend when I did that review, and talked about how those movies go hand in hand with each other, because they're really telling a lot of the same stories, but just through a different method, where Campfire Tales is more of a supernatural take, and Urban Legend is more of the slasher, the realistic take behind it. And Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is very similar in that way, to where it's kind of like Goosebumps a little bit, to where if you ever saw that first movie, the whole idea was all these monsters and creatures are escaping from R.L. Stine's stories and terrorizing this neighborhood. And it's the same thing here with Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, that all these tales are coming out of these books that people are aware of, and they are terrorizing this young girl and all of her friends in this town that they're in as well too. Now, it's kind of crazy to think that years on from this, we still haven't gotten a sequel, as the film very much sets up for a second film to come out of this, but there are some good scares in this one. And while not every legend that gets brought alive here really works out in the best way, the ones that do are really, really good. Talk about the one with the toe. That one got me without question for sure. Go and check out Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. My second suggestion for you is going to be The Babysitter. Now, Samara Weaving at this point has become synonymous with the horror genre, but this is one of the films that put her on the map in the first place, about this 12-year-old kid named Cole, who discovers that his babysitter belongs to a cult of Satanists that are looking to sacrifice him for their own personal gain. Can Cole survive the night? Can he get that kiss from the babysitter even though she's trying to murder him? Y'all, this is another one of those movies that, had it come out back in the 80s, this would be a revered cult classic. This seems to fit in right with the same kind of films that we were watching all throughout the late 80s and the mid 90s that we just love to go back and catch, honestly. The vibe is great. It is hilarious. And I just got done talking about how if you have a great supporting cast, that's going to do nothing but wonders for your film. And The Babysitter has that in spades. Folks, you can go check out that and Scary Stories in the Dark on Netflix right now, folks. Gonna switch things up here, folks. I got 2 suggestions for you over on Hulu. Now, my first suggestion is actually a review I just dropped a few days ago. I am talking Mr. Crockett. When a string of children go missing, the only suspect seems to be a former host of a popular 90s children's television show. That is Mr. Crockett. Y'all, this movie, very much, while is not the same kind of film as something like a Five Nights at Freddy's or a Willy's Wonderland, seemingly has a lot of those same characteristics in it that might really appeal to that younger crowd that's out there. Now, don't get me wrong, Mr. Crockett is a very violent film for sure, and the way that our host and his fun friends take out their victims is not nice in the least bit here. But I actually think that Hulu's horror output has been one of the best of the streaming services that we've gotten in quite a while. Like, they just seem to be consistently focused on that. And I'm not saying that all these other outlets don't, but when it comes to original horror, Hulu seems to be killing it in spades, folks. Go and check out Mr. Crockett. You can check my review if you want my full thoughts on that one. My other suggestion for you is one of my absolute favorites of the last few years. Folks, my second suggestion for you is Fresh, about a young woman who is trying to meet the right guy. When she thinks that she's found him, unfortunately, he's hiding a dark secret. He's a cannibal. Y'all, that's all I want to say, because this movie has to be seen to believe. Sebastian Stan, is so interesting because his career during and post MCU, because he's not out of the MCU yet, but he has taken some real big swings, unlike a lot of his compatriots have done in the MCU. And that's not a knock, because I've liked a lot of the output that a lot of these other actors have done, but Sebastian Stan seems to really want to take chances and just kind of put his hand into the ring of whatever's out there that actually interests him, and I applaud him for doing that. But not to be outdone, Daisy Edgar-Jones, who's our lead of this film, is a great foil here for Sebastian Stan's Steve. Now, you might have seen her recently in the long-awaited follow-up to Twister, this summer's Twisters. I know, quite inventive, right? But back in this one here, seeing her as a young woman who knows that she has to do everything she can to appease this new love interest in her life if she's going to keep hers, and the things that she'll do to stay alive. It's disgusting, but y'all, I could not look away. And kind of like a little bit when I watch like anything in like the Hannibal franchise, man, some of that stuff actually looks like kind of good when you really think about it. You can go and check out Fresh and Mr. Crockett on Hulu right now, folks. And to wrap things up over on Tubi, my first suggestion for you is gonna be Death Becomes Her. Folks, this classic about 2 women who are in competition for the same man as well as their own, as they see failing beauty and will go through the extreme lengths to stay young forever and win the heart of a very interesting looking Bruce Willis. Folks, Death Becomes Her is one of the best horror comedies of all time. Not just like recent, it is one of the best ones of all time. Robert Zemeckis brought us gold with this. Meryl Streep, Goldie Hawn are amazing in this as these 2 women who will absolutely murder the shit out of each other to just get what they wanted, as they keep upping the ante and keep having to find ways to keep everything held together. It just gets out of this world insane, and you will love it, folks. Go and check out Death Becomes Her right now, and for no reason at all. My second suggestion over on Tubi is Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. Y'all, Elvira is horror royalty, and Cassandra Peterson, who plays Elvira, has shown herself to be one of the kindest, one of the nicest, one of the most welcoming people in this world that we have. And folks, we've talked about gatekeeping in the world of horror before, and Elvira has done nothing but to make everybody feel welcome in this space. And believe it or not, Elvira did actually have a couple of movies back in the day besides being a host of her own horror hour. And Mistress of the Dark amps up the comedy, the horror, and the sexuality, puts it all together in a great blend in a story that focuses on Elvira looking to claim her inheritance and fix up this mansion that she has inherited before she gets ran out of town. Folks, you got to see it to believe it. What's great about it is that it has that great sex humor that we had in a lot of our films back in the 80s while still giving you that little bit of horror sprinkle on top of it. And of course, who doesn't love Elvira vamping it up on screen? Again, for no reason at all. You can go and support Elvira and Cassandra Peterson, who is an amazing, giving woman who does so much for us, so much for her fans, so much for everybody. Go and support her and check out Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, as well as Death Become Her over on Tubi. That's it, folks. Another week of spooky streaming suggestions. Tell me if you've seen any of these in the comment section. Do you have some suggestions of stuff that I need to check out before the Halloween season is over? Let me know that too for a chance to win an Abigail Funko Pop I'm going to be drawing at the end of the month. Tell me that in the comment section. But that's it tonight, folks. I appreciate you tuning in. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.
Boy here is a big fan of Fangoria. So, if you want to check out the world's best horror magazine that's out there, get a chance to get yourself your own subscription, which I just got my first one back in 2022 and I don't regret it for a second. But if you want your own Fangoria subscription or you like the Fangoria merchandise, then head over to the Fangoria shop and use my link if you want to save yourself some money, folks. That's an easy one to remember. Just go to shop.fangoria.com/AXDEW. Again, that's shop.fangoria.com/AXDEW, or use my specific code AXDEW at checkout. You can save 20% off your entire order, and that implies 2 subscription and one-time orders as well. You don't want to miss out, folks, because with the magnitude of horror movies we've had released in the last few years, and with what we have on the horizon, Fangoria is going to be your #1 source for all that great, juicy, bloody information in the world of horror. So again, head to shop.fangoria.com. Hey there, folks! Thanks for tuning in to T Watch This Scary Movie. I appreciate you checking out another review or movie news, whether we're talking movies, TV shows, books, or games, whatever, it's all scary. Remember, you can check out new episodes every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on the YouTube page for video. That's youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. Again, youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. And you can check out the audio version on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Just search T Watch the Scary Movie or TWASM. Don't forget, my name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.